get your laughing gear around an Asian-inspired pulled pork tutorial. The pork fillet, also known as the pork neck or the collar butt, and as the name suggests, it's found off the shoulder near the neck. Next couple of steps, we're going to do the night before, make it a bucket ton easier. Pickled veg. Some very finely sliced cabbage first. Put that to the side. Next up, bird's eye chili. Do it last, then wash your hands straight after. Next up, mason jar, sealable jar. We're going to go a couple of teaspoons of sugar. Optional extra, about 1/4 teaspoon of pickling spice, but I just like the flavour. Liquid solution, half vinegar, half water. And mix that up until the sugar has fully dissolved. Now stuff everything in. It's really that simple. The main thing is you want the liquid to cover the highest level of veggies. Just put in a little bit at a time so it's sort of already mixed up, makes it a little bit easier. And with the pear, make sure it's one that's not fully ripe so it's still got a nice bit of crunch to it. Bloody handy dandy scooper, that makes life so much easier. Make sure it's got the edges on it. Clean the seal. You can sterilise too at this point if you want. Quick shake just to make sure it's all nice and even. As you can see, anyone with a heartbeat could do that. From start to finish, 2 minutes. Bang that into the fridge and we'll see you tomorrow. Still the night before, next step, let's get onto the pork. Prostate exam glove on. Wouldn't be barbecue without a back glove. Sorry Pepper, it's your day is done. Right, like any good barbecue, the first step is selecting a good collar butt. You want nice striations of fat. You want to look for any marbling you can. You don't want big, loose, floppy bits, and if it does the old man floppy test inside the bag, you're good to go. And my last massive tip, push on the outside. You're more than likely going to get this fat sealed in a pack. Push on the outside. If you've got some really hard fat, that's just not going to render down no matter how much you cook it. If you can get one with the least amount of hard fat as possible, you're onto a winner. If on inspection you do have some hard fat, this is the time. This is one of the first steps. Like that bit right there absolutely isn't going to render down. So I'm just going to slice that straight off. Another big bit to that aerodynamic piece is cutting off all those little real thin bits. You can cook them separate, but they are definitely going to burn up, dry out before the rest of the pork is cooked. Nice and smooth along the edges, allow that smoke to flow over beautifully. Next step is binder. For this application, I'm going to use a soy sauce or sriracha. Now, obviously this one here, as you can see, is quite dry, so it definitely needs a bit of binder. And if you go super thick on a small cut like this, you might actually get some caramelization coming through, but be aware, the rub is prone to breaking off when you're forming that beautiful bark. Then we do the underside last, so we can season that first, then we can flip it on its guts and have the presentation on the top side last, just so we don't affect that rub on the... For the seasoning, I'm going to go the award-winning Oz Dirt, some ginger, say 6 teaspoons of Oz Dirt, 1 teaspoon of Chinese five spice, and then 1 teaspoon of ginger. Season from about 50 centimeters in height. That allows a nice even coverage and you won't get any hot spots. In particular, if you've got any sugars in your seasoning, you don't want them to over caramelize and start to burn up, especially before everything else. Now you can eat all sides, season all sides. Now that it's been trimmed and seasoned, put it into a container just so the edges aren't rubbing. We don't want to take off all that seasoning. Now we can bang this into the fridge. We can rip that out in the morning. We've got a lot of these steps done. We'll move on to the final step just to reduce all of that workload on the cooking day. Mise en place for you fancy fuckers. Next up, the glaze. We're also making this the night before. Once it cools down, we can cover it up and we just have to heat it up in the morning. So we've got 120 mils of chicken stock, then 120 mils of a cheap SSB, 70 mils of tamarind, 100 grams of rice malt syrup, or you can just bang in honey, 3-star anise on low to medium heat until it's fully incorporated. Heat off, kill it there. Once you've reduced it back to a simmer, add about a 1 centimeter block of fresh ginger. Let that rip for about another 10 minutes. When the sauce coats a spoon like that, you can now remove the star anise, you can remove the ginger, cover it up until you're ready to use it. Battle plug is on. It's a bit wet today, so let's lock in the diffs. Right, tonight I'm running coconut briquettes for a bit of consistency because it's a little bit fucking cold. Right, we're going to set up in a snake method, 2 on the bottom, 1 on the top, with the power of Centrelink paycheck. 2 on the bottom, 1 row on the top to connect it up, and we've got 3 chunks of cherry wood right at the start, or they'll run about halfway through the cook, to be honest. Then we're going to go the vents open about 1 centimeter at the top, and the vents will be open fully. Righto, see you in the morning. You hear the kookaburras? Right, I've got 8 lit briquettes. I'm just going to stack them right at the very start of that snake. Essentially, that will start burning the fuse all the way through. Move your first chunk of wood so it's just touching the lit charcoal. We don't want to over smoke anything. After about 2 minutes, we've got the diffuser plate on, cooking grate on, lid on. have the top vent roughly opposite sides to where the fire is currently lit, and they'll draw a lot more of the smoke over to where we place the meat. Not mandatory, of course, because we've got the diffuser plate on. Now we'll let that rip for 10 minutes just to make sure that the charcoal's burning through correctly, the smoke's not billowing out everywhere, white smoke, because we don't want it to taste dirty and acrid. Then we'll bang the meat on. Right, about 15 minutes have passed. Nice low level smoke, that's exactly what we want. Bang your pork right in the centre. We won't touch that for at least 3 hours, because if you're looking, it ain't cooking, and we'll come back and see how the bark's going. Right, it's now been about 3 hours. Let's have a quick bo peep. Look, as you can see, it's starting to develop a little bit of bark on top, so we're getting a little bit of scratch. That's going to provide a lot of texture and, most importantly, a lot of flavour. You can see we're starting to get a bit of ruby red here. Now it's completely up to you. It's at this point you might want to rotate it just so we can ensure an even cook. Right, now I'm going to let this ride till it hits around 75 to 80 Celsius internal, 175 Fahrenheit, give or take. But it's just when I get that really nice, deep, dark ruby red across the top, the bark's formed a little bit more, then we can wrap it. That'll speed up the cook. Once you've got your charcoal smoker dialed in, you two can go get a brew. Look at this cheeky bugger, he's waiting for a feed. What I like to do is use some tallow or some spritz just to moisten the paper up. This makes it easier to wrap. So basically what I'm doing here is folding up the pink butcher's paper, and then I'm just going to fold this end over end so it's nice and tight, because I obviously don't want to steam it and ruin all that beautiful bark. Fold the last bit underneath. Bob's your uncle. There you go, you've got your nice little pork present. Straight into the foil tray, into the oven at around about 65 to 70 Celsius. The temperature will slowly dip down and it will also prove to rest at the same time. That will give us around about 6 hours in there. Alright, I just added the pork into the tray, just makes it a little bit less mess in the oven. That was sitting there for about 4 to 5 hours until it probed like warm apple pie. Righto, the probe now goes through with very little resistance. It's time to pull it like it's your last Hank Hill. Let's open up our present, shall we? When you hear the term it probes like warm apple pie or butter, now up to you. You can pull it or you can slice it. Look at that. So you've still got that, what makes barbecue quite unique. You've got some of that bark, and then you've got that beautifully tender smoked meat underneath. Alright, to serve, we're going to go some of that day-old rice, just heat it up a little bit. A little drizzle of the glaze that we made earlier. Obviously you've just heated it up. A little hit of sesame. Now I'm going to go through some of that centre of the pork, a little bit more subdued in flavour. So we're going to have a few different textures going on. We're going to have some with the bark, and then some of that super tender stuff that was right underneath. Pickles that we made last night. Just going to grab a good wad of that. Lastly, hit it with some mint, some coriander. Lastly, some of those bird's eye chilies. Now with the rest of those pork leftovers, you can make some crisp spring rolls, absolutely banging with all those flavours that we just did. Try a bit of everything. That really hits the nail on the head. Nice textures, you've got some of the acidity from the pickle that cuts through that pork, that nice subtle sweetness from the glaze, a little bit of rice to soak up some of the glaze too. Doesn't get much better than that. Righto, bang it in.